Okay, so I've been checking my analytics and I've been seeing a lot of interest in my Canon A1 videos. And since it's been a while since I talked about them and this beautiful little thing, I thought, it's probably time for a little update and get you guys up to speed with how I feel about this camera. Basically, it is no secret that I love this camera. If there was one camera that I would keep and sell the rest, this would be the one to keep. I'm going to do something that I don't think I've done, and that is to talk about the lenses that I have for it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's probably more than anyone should have for any camera, if I'm being quite honest. But they all have their purpose, and let me explain. Probably the most versatile one that I have is the 35mm f2. So I've just got the f35 f2 version, but there's like the SSC, there's the SC version. I think mine's the one with the thorium on it, the radioactive one. Not that it's something to be worried about, it's very low rate, it's not a problem, the radiation. But the reason why I have this one is because it's a 35mm f2, so it's pretty fast. The 35mm is such a great focal length because it's wide enough for interiors, but then also tight enough that if you go outside and you want to get a bit, if you want to lock in on a detail, you just have to take a few steps in. I love it, brilliant. One, I broke, all right? I don't know how, I can't remember how, but basically I had to send it to get repaired by a reputable camera repair person. He admitted that he broke it even further. Have I had two? No, I think I've only had two then, in that sense. In that case, I've only had two. But it was broken by someone else. It went from having a small defect, so I had it sent away, and then it got completely wrecked in the repair process, which meant that I had to buy a completely new one. And that's how much I like this lens. The bokeh looks amazing. It's such a usable focal length. It's so versatile. Whatever the scenario, portraits, landscape, whatever it is, just day-to-day, day-to-day, snappy snaps, 35mm is the one for me at least. And at f2, it's decently fast. And that's why it basically just stays on my camera on the A1. Next up is the 50mm. It's the one that I learned film photography on basically. This is the stock lens basically for the A1. There's nothing to complain about this one. There's a reason why I haven't got rid of it. I have a very soft spot for this lens because firstly, I learned film photography on it because this is my first film camera, and it's very light. When you combine these two, this and this becomes very light. This lens, as you can see, the 35 f2, is pretty heavy. It's pretty front heavy, whereas with this is far lighter, so I'm very comfortable just having the camera on a wrist strap. It just looks good. All these lenses, all of the FD lenses, I have yet, I've used other ones outside of these ones, and I'm yet to find one that I don't like. So this one I kind of retired, put it to side because I got this one instead, the 50mm f1.4, the SSC version. So the reason why the reason why I opted for this one as my 50mm focal length is because of, obviously, the 1.4, the fast lens, the fast aperture. And this one again, just unbelievable character, beautiful renditions of the bokeh, it's just everything looks super nice. So much so that as you can see, it's got an adapter. This is for my Fuji X-T3. A lot of the times I will do a lot of gigs with this combination because the 50mm when attached to that becomes a 75mm, and I shoot a lot of events, I shoot a lot of interiors that have sort of not nice backgrounds, or a lot of times the client will ask me to make it look busy, even though the event doesn't look busy. So a longer focal length, like a 75mm, is great because a lot of times I have to be far away from the people or from someone who's on stage, and that extra reach is so good. And at 1.4 aperture, it's super fast. So a lot of the events I do are in it's stupid dark how dark it is. So a 1.4 is beautiful. It helps me so much. And on top of that, like, there's just so much character. Like I hate using the word character, but genuinely at 1.4, the highlights are bloomed so nicely. You know, the background looks amazing. It's straight out the box. It gives you that look that people try to recreate, you know? And then on top of that, you know, it's very trendy nowadays to give, you know, to have like a filmic sort of color grade. And a lot of the times this filmic color grade doesn't quite make sense with like a new digital lens. You kind of have to muddy up the image and make it less sharp as well to make the color grade make sense. Whereas with this lens, or with any of these lenses, it like, you don't have to do that. It just makes sense already out the box. I hope that makes sense. At the beginning, I used it so often. Like, I use it all the time. Like, I basically use it as like a daily driver. But then, it's just such a freaking chonk. Look at this. This is like a brick. This is a bomb. This is a grenade. It is so heavy to the point that it's impractical to use it every single day. So, and despite that, every time I look at it, it's like look at the glass element on that. Absolute filth. Like, this is a telescope. This is, when I tell you that when I found this online, I squealed, because this is so hard to find, and in the condition that I was in, I squealed, and so I didn't care what it was going to take. Like, it sounds bad. It sounds really sad when I describe how I felt and the sequence of events that happened. But basically, I saw it come online on, I can't remember which site. Immediately I was like, I don't care how much it costs. Just buy it. Lenses like these don't come about very often, and when they do, it's like, if you miss it, it's gone. Maybe in the next few years you might see another one come online. And that was what this whole lens is, the 85mm f1.2L. And I don't regret it. I don't, because it is one of those collector lenses. It's one of those, like, even though if you don't use it that often, you're just so happy to have it. And this lens, like, this is like a cheat code. Like, it's not fair. When I say the bokeh is, like, it's just so pleasing to look at. It is so pleasing to look at. It's sharp as well. Like, it is so sharp. It's got like, it's kind of got like, I know, I'm gonna sound really annoying. You know, it's gonna sound like hyperbole. When I look at sort of old cinema lenses, like vintage cinema lenses, this lens, I think, in my opinion, comes about as close to those ones. Like, when you think of, like, I'm trying to act like I know cinema lenses, but there's sharpness and softness at the same time, whilst having great detail. It's not digital sharp, it's vintage lens sharp. So it has like a slight softness to it, but it's still so detailed, and it doesn't quite make sense. And that is what this 85 is. This is what that is. This is what I see when I shoot with it. And it's just like this otherworldliness. That 1.2, to be honest, I don't often shoot at 1.2. I did in the beginning, but it's just such a, you know, it's so shallow. At 85, it's such a shallow depth of field. It actually is quite hard to hit focus. But so then I'll shoot at 1.4, and you're still gonna get insane bokeh. You're still gonna get loads of characteristics. And lastly, I've just got a macro lens. Like, it's a great macro lens. It's like super cheap. This is like, what is it, the 50mm f3.5, and I've got the extension tube as well. I use this for all my film scanning, for video. Like, I think if you have the means, if you have a bit more budget, if you've got a bit more shelf space, I think a macro lens is unbelievable. Like, it gets you shots that you can't get any other way. Like, all of the detailed shots that you're seeing now have been shot with this. So in the past, I've had the 135mm f2.5, an unreal lens, but for me 135mm was just like, I just wasn't using that often. It was such a specific thing, like it's such a niche, like I never needed that that amount of reach, and at the time I remember I was like, I could, you know, I was trying to downsize because I sort of collected a lot of lenses, a lot of cameras, and the 135mm f2.5 was one of those that didn't make the cut. So you're probably thinking, oh, but Zain, just tell me one. Just tell me which one I should get. You know, if you use your Canon A1 for shooting daily life, shooting family portraits, shooting pictures of your family, that sort of stuff, I would 100% either go for just the the 50mm f1.8, because it's cheap and cheerful, and of the size is very light, which makes this setup with the A1 very easy to carry all day. Or if you're looking to spend a bit more, then I would suggest the 35 f2 because of the slightly wider focal length, which will make it a bit easier to use indoors as well. If you're doing more professional work, if you're intending to do more professional work with this camera, then I would suggest going for one of the more expensive lenses, such as the 50mm f1.4, because that f1.4 will give you that extra bit of light, and in a professional setting, trust me, that extra bit of light makes a big difference. And likewise, an 85, then you're going a bit more niche, you know, at 1.2, you're shooting like high-end portraits, that sort of stuff. Or if you're just a little lens fiend like myself, then yeah, you can get it as well. Unless you have a real need to shoot niche shots like macro shots, or unless you also develop your own film and scan your own film, then yeah, the macro lens is a superb option too. So yeah, that's what they're all for. Let me know if you have any of your own suggestions, any honorable mentions that you think I missed out on. Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you all in the next one.